Good morning. Yes, it's hump day. It's Wednesday. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take for Market Rebellion. Well, yesterday, again, the volatility, the velocity, Ukraine, the headline, and the movements that we are seeing, obviously talking about crude, commodities. And was that the top? Yesterday had this huge run to the upside, of course. We watched crude go very, very rapidly, hitting up towards 130. We had gold well over 2,000 to 2,050. So all of that was happening, and we were seeing the market sell off substantially in the early going, down a couple of 100 points. Before you know it, we slammed down even further, only to rally back. Range on the day was about 800 points when it was all said and done. Just another wild ride, right? And we talk about volatility all the time. On the low end, we were at a 33. On the high end, we were up above 37, a 37.50, maybe even a little bit higher than that, before we actually closed out the day around 35. So a wild ride, no doubt about it, when you look at the Dow and the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. NASDAQ about a 500-point range yesterday. Just to give you a little perspective, that's crazy. These are not normal times, and this is nothing like the financial market. This is something completely different, and obviously a lot of news catalysts the Defense Department have to say. What about China? What's going on with China and possibly Taiwan? Are the Chinese going to help out the Russians? All of that, just these unbelievable swings that we are seeing right now. But it does continue. Look at the 10-year, right around 186. So it's bounced back up. You know, we were down a little bit. We were underneath 1.8 for a very short period of time. Matter of fact, today we're popping back up towards that 1.9, and maybe even a little bit higher than that. But volatility, I mentioned. Volumes, that's something I didn't talk about. Volumes, almost 50 million contracts yesterday. We talked about that early on. I said it looked like the kind of day, the way we were starting out, and with all the unusual option activity we were seeing very early on, it looked like that kind of a day, a 50 million contract day. And it was 49.5 million contracts trading, a monster day. Huge range in oil. 120 to 130, huge range when you look over at gold. That was in a monstrous range as well. Now, we are seeing a lot of that start to pull down. I'll get into that in just a second, but financials, they were off a little bit yesterday. Semiconductors actually had a really nice healthcare, some pressure. You look over at what was weak yesterday. I'm looking at a couple of the names. I look at United Health. I look at Johnson & Johnson showing a little bit of weakness. Nike also, Walmart also. Some of the more comfortable stocks that people are looking at were actually under pressure. Names like Coke, names like Procter & Gamble. You look at Campbell's Soup. Those aren't normally names that are going to be going down, which they were yesterday, in a marketplace where people are trying to shift around and trying to find a little bit of safety. They did find a lot of safety yesterday, not so much today, but yesterday in the energy patch with that big spike up towards 130 before we started to see that huge drop right around that midday time where we watched the price of crude literally start to crash back down from, call it 130, down towards 120, and then we sort of finished somewhere closer to 125. So we did get off of the lows of the day. It was names like Valero, it was Schlumberger, it was Rig, which is Transocean. All those names having a really good day. Had a lot of unusual option activity in a lot of these various names. Some of those in our face today. Exxon did have some buying of the shorter term 90s and 89 calls yesterday, looking for a little bit more of extension. We talk about this all the time. These rolls that happen within the options world, just so you fully understand, at some point the rolls aren't going to work. But most of the time, as they've been moving to the upside, they have been working for the past, call it 16, 18 months. We have been watching these rolls going up, going out a little bit in time, and trying to pick up a little bit more and actually take some profits along the way, but still staying in the trade. Yesterday, that didn't really end up so well. We'll see if that continues. Today, a little bit more pressure, as a matter of fact, on oil. So as we jump into today, just a little quick recap. We were down 800 points on Monday. Let's not forget that on the Dow. We were down 185 points yesterday. Let's not forget that. So we're talking about something very close to 1,000-point drop. Today, making up for a lot of that drop in just a single day. We were up 550 points in the pre-market, up 600 points early. Last I looked, we were up about 625, and I looked over at the NASDAQ, it was up 300, 300, 300 as we were getting through the morning, and now jumped a little bit more, up about 360 points. Why? Technology started up the day about 2.3%. Last I looked, we were actually a little closer to 3% on that move. Semiconductors were up about 3%, boom, right out of the gate. So financials, they were up strong early, about 4%. They've come back a little bit, nothing big, but up about 3.5%. So a little give back from the financials, but a little extra something coming out of technology. So 10-year, 1.9. That's what we were just talking about. I look over at the volatility index, call it 32, 33, somewhere in that range. We're bouncing around just a little bit. And boy, do we have deservedly so positioned to right around 32. You take a look at the S&P 500, it's about a 2% move to the upside today. You look at the Dow as well as the NASDAQ, similar. You're looking at plus 2% moves to the upside, specifically looking at the NASDAQ. So a lot of big, strong movers today. PVH, you look at Under Armour, those names. You look at the cruise ships, absolutely ripping to the upside. You look at airlines, ripping to the upside. You just pick your name, Delta, United, American, all moving to the upside. I look over at CCL, I look at Norwegian, I look at Royal, all having a really nice day. And some of those other names that we talk about oftentimes that are leading to the downside, but Datadog, DocuSign, those kind of names, and a nice little lift today. Talked about the semiconductors. We're looking at something like an NVIDIA today having a really nice start to the day. Nike with a nice bounce back. American Express, which got hammered. We talked about those puts. That's why discipline is so important. We talk about it all the time. When you get those moves, we're talking about a pretty substantial move that we got in just a very short period of time where American Express was trading at 185. And before you know it, we were underneath 160. Those 160 puts moved in a hurry. But there is a discipline that's involved there where you've got to take a little, trim a little something, or maybe you take the whole thing off depending on what your risk tolerance is, because you do get bounce backs like we are seeing today. Those were April puts, however, so there is a little bit of time. That doesn't mean you don't have to have some discipline. You do. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, nice big bounce back as well, along with those. We talked about the financials in this big move. Those are some of the areas that have been absolutely getting hammered. Well, a little bit better today on a little bit of a bounce back. So got two unusuals for you. We'll get out of here. FEZ. I don't talk about ETFs all that often. This is a Spider Euro ETF. So if you want to just kind of get a composite of what you see in some of the biggest and all different types of sectors and so forth over in Europe, this is one of those names. So FEZ was trading 39.30. Today, we're seeing some pretty decent sized put trading, 13,000 April 30 puts being bought for about 37 cents today. So a pretty big size trade going out to April. So you get a little bit of time. And are the European markets out of the woods? Somebody seems to think that maybe that's not really the case, not just yet. So we do see that put buying there. That one I thought was interesting. Had to point that out to the downside. To the upside, I mentioned the airlines are ripping to the upside. Sometimes they're a little bit late. I wonder if they're a little bit late this time. Not really sure. I know that we were talking about yesterday, when you get those fuel prices higher, boy, it's amazing how fast the airlines and everybody else in the industry starts jacking those prices up, right? Well, that was something that was being talked about throughout the networks yesterday in the financial network world. 8,000 today of the March 11th. Now, they're not really overly confident necessarily in a move right now with the airlines, or they maybe would have bought a little bit more time. That being said, Friday's expiring March 35.5 calls in Delta. Stock was trading about 32.90. They bought 8,000 of those for 20 cents. Fairly inexpensive shot. Little bit of upside. It's going to have to make a decent move in a short period of time. Can it do it? It certainly could do that. Will it do it? That's time will tell. But we were seeing multiple airlines today with some call buying. Now, they were also buying shorter term calls in the airlines today. So just keep that in mind. So this is not huge conviction that this is a bounce back and we've hit a bottom and all the rest of it, but certainly looking for a trade, at least right now, within the airline industry itself. Folks, have a great day of trading. It's going to be a wild ride again. Keep an eye on things. Keep an eye on that volatility index and watch each and every one of these different major indices throughout the day. You're going to get a lot of tells, I think, throughout the day on what the directions are. And of course, keep your eye on crude. We've seen crude pull back. We've seen gold pull back. We're seeing a lot of pullbacks in commodities today. Is this the beginning of that, or is that something that maybe is just taking that pause? We'll see very, very rapidly. Have a great day of trading.